Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us here. My name is Olga Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation. It's year 9 of the war and day 271 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor in our land. And I want to thank the representatives of all the mass media who tell the world the truth about this war. Today, on behalf of all our team, I want to congratulate everybody in the airborne troops of Ukraine. Thank you, our dear military, our troops, and eternal glory to those who perished in this war defending our freedom and liberty. I want to introduce our speaker today. It's Yuriy Ihnat, Speaker of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and we will be talking about the situation in our skies. So, Mr. Yuriy, what's the situation lately? What are the forecasts? Good afternoon. I join your congratulations. I want to send congratulations and greetings to all the airborne troops and to congratulate everybody with the Day of Dignity and Freedom and eternal memory to everybody who is unable to join us today already, unfortunately. Yes, the situation in the front lines is complicated. The situation in the skies is a little bit quieter because the enemy cannot inflict such massive missile strikes as they do periodically. They have to accumulate their reserves. We were talking about that previously. Ukraine currently suffers, not Ukrainian troops, but Ukrainian civil population suffers even to some extent more from these strikes, but there are intense firefights going on in the front lines with engagement of enemy aviation, specifically fighter jets and the army aviation helicopters. Our aviation supports our land troops, and the situation is not easy in the front lines. Meanwhile, we see some stabilization of the front line in the Kherson region along the Dnipro River. The enemy is getting reinforced on the left bank. In the same way, they reinforce their air defense system that we will need to destroy sooner or later. So our military also reinforces in that area, preparing to either defend or to attack. As we see on this day, there are some powerful strikes. There are rocket artillery strikes. There are also strikes using S-300 rockets, air defense rockets, which they use to destroy the residential area, private residential infrastructure. This type of weapon inflicts heavy damage in such areas because the enemy uses these S-300 rockets from 3 to we can say that the precision of these rockets is relative at the distance of 30 to 40 kilometers, but now that the enemy uses them from 150 kilometers, we cannot say about any precision, and the thousands of shrapnel and debris fly in different directions, damaging apartment blocks and other private residential areas. The air defense forces are ready to repel the enemy air attacks with all available means. Air defense as of today is not only SAM systems represented by Book 1M or S-300 systems, but they are also represented by fighter jets who support the land process from the air using the UAVs. Also is the air defense of the airborne troops and land forces, as well as Navy and Air Force. The air defense is being reinforced by France, for example. We received a number of portable air defense systems from them recently. They are similar to Soviet-era Osad, but these systems, they have their own radars for target acquisition, which may help in destruction of loitering drones and other UAVs. Also, we witnessed the delivery of American Avengers based on Humvee trucks armed with Stinger rockets that are equipped with target acquisition systems, and it helps a lot. Why specifically target acquisition? It helps the efficient destruction of the target under conditions of, for example, low visibility, like due to weather or in the nighttime. This target acquisition system guides the rocket in the necessary direction. So other systems provided by our partners, like Jeopards, they are being integrated in Ukrainian air defense system in whole. Unfortunately, the airspace of Ukraine is very big due to the large territory of the country, and to cover all the length of the front line by air defense means we need more equipment, more material. That was already said by the government of Ukraine. For example, we have Iris-T, and the German industry promises to deliver some more shortly, and we will have the full unit of them, which would be able to cover a section of the front with about 100 kilometers long. In fact, 100% precision of these modern systems equipped with the good target acquisition systems, and their rockets, they in fact destroy 100% of enemy cruise missiles. Unfortunately, we have little number of launcher systems, but we expect some more deliveries from our Western partners. Our top military management reported that we received another air defense system, Hawk, which may be a little bit morally obsolete, but still can efficiently work on loitering drones, and taking into account our Buk 1M and S-300 air defense systems, they are morally obsolete as well. They are dated back in 1970s, but everything will go to protect Ukraine, to defend the Ukrainian skies against the potential threats and the existing threats and those which may emerge in future. Mr. Yuriy, we've heard the statement from our Western partners in Poland that they don't oppose to locate the Patriot systems along the Ukrainian-Polish border. Theoretically, may it happen so that these Patriot systems would be used to protect not only the Polish skies, but the western part of Ukraine as well? Well, you know, starting from the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Russian aggressor, everybody asked the whole world to cover the Ukrainian skies, to provide the arms to Ukraine, to provide the aircraft to Ukraine. We would like it to happen, of course, at least at that part of the front, to protect our skies with this air defense system. Another significant statement for us from the head of the National Security Council of Israel, that Ukraine may get ballistic missiles from Israel in case Iran transfers their ballistic missiles to Russia. To what extent would it minimize the consequences of the missile strikes, and to what extent would it help us? We know that Israel is the country which wields cutting-edge technologies in defense sector, and we know that there is a world order. The world is not Ukraine. The civilized world complies with the norms of handing the weapons to other countries. If Israel takes these steps, we would only be happy. It would unblock the transfer to Ukraine under a certain program of military support of Israel air defense systems. It will be a significant step forward for us. Dear colleagues, any questions, please introduce yourself. Alla Shershen, Ukrinform. In view of liberation of the Kherson region, are there changes in Russian airfields? Do we observe any movement of Russian aircraft? If so, in what direction? Well, liberation of Kherson region that we were happy to witness recently, it inspired the people and it changed the tactics of application of Russian aviation, because the airfield, the famous Chernobyevka, legendary Chernobyevka, where mostly army aviation was based, I mean the enemy helicopters. These helicopters, they had to be relocated somewhere. There is Jankoy airfield and 4 more airfields in Crimea. Those are our airfields. And thus, the enemy will have to spend more time for arrival. We also know about the Chaplinka airfield. For aviation, the distance does not have utmost significance. If we talk about fighter jets, the time of arrival will change, but ultimately it's just the smaller number of airfields. We know about that there are about 40 airfields used by Russian Federation around Ukraine. They are located in occupied Crimea, Belarus, and in Russia. So those are the airfields used by different types of aircraft, by fighter jets and helicopters as well. Well, minus 2 airfields is good for us. Can you please tell us, do they relocate their aircraft, or did they relocate their aircraft from Kherson region airfields? Well, the fixed-wing aircrafts are always in the air. Those we observe in our radars, they fulfill some tasks. We witnessed the change of weather conditions, which under conditions of low visibility results in less application of aviation. They fled to the left bank of the Dnipro River, so obviously they were able to save certain number of material, but we've seen retrofit helicopters, those that were captured by them, and then we captured them back. And we will renew them, we will repair them. And obviously a certain number was lost, but a significant number was relocated. More questions, please?
Good afternoon, sir. Lorenzo Cremonini from Italian Press, Corriere della Sera. Sir, 2 questions. You repeated, especially last time, but today again, that your air defense is better, and then you're able to shoot down more than before enemy missile, etc. Can you tell us, and then today you added that in order to penetrate your defense, the Russians need to shoot more missiles, a big number in order to have some of them. Can you tell us what do you think is the minimum, the number, more or less, of course, of missile the Russians need to shoot together in order to have some chance, some hope to penetrate your sky? And secondly, well, let's start with this question. Then I have another little question on this. Thank you.
Yes, we obviously announce objective statements. We're not Russia. We show objective information. We don't lie about destruction of any mythical targets. And yes, the Ukrainian air defense really destroys a large number of missiles. that we shut down 75 out of 96 rockets that were launched, plus the loitering drones, all of which were destroyed. Our Western partners are wondering how can you work on this number of targets. The answer is easy. Ukrainian air defense forces have significant experience, and it's been achieved at difficult price. We have losses in this field. It's not only air defense forces which work on shooting down the missiles, but they are the mobile fire groups and aviation. So the portable air defense weapons are also used for shutting down the rockets. Today, the air defense forces in Ukraine don't have enough SAM systems in their ranks, like S-300 and Book 1M, and something provided by the Western partners. They are provided, but not in necessary amount. Again, Ukrainian territory is big, and it's difficult to cover all the territory. The enemy uses intelligence to set the routes for the loitering drones and for the missiles in a way to evade or avoid their destruction. But at the same time, our air defense and intelligence that we have, they do everything they can to make impossible these plans. And yes, I did not reply to the second part of your question. Yeah, about the number of missiles to be launched to penetrate the Ukrainian air defense. Well, at first they used the missiles in low numbers and small numbers, like 4, 6, or they used 12 against Kharkivska thermal power plant, 9 of which were shut down. And the enemy understands that if they shoot less rockets, they will be destroyed more efficiently by Ukrainian air defense. And the Ukrainian air defense forces will not dissipate their attention. So that's why the enemy now uses, when they can, when they accumulate enough missiles, they use it in a combined way with loitering drones from different directions. They launch it from the Tupolev 95, Tupolev 106, the rockets X-101, X-555. They fly from southern and from northern direction, flying over the Republic of Moldova. And at the same time, they launch the rockets from the carriers in the Black Sea, the Caliber missiles. It's a massive missile attack that requires the engagement of all air defense forces that are available now in Ukraine in order to efficiently destroy the air targets. So this is how we are able to achieve the results we have now. But again, to achieve better results, we need more means, because the enemy keeps exhausting our air defense forces. That's already understood to the intelligence of the Western countries, that Russians will keep using the loitering drones to exhaust our air defense.
And the second question is regarding, it's on the subject of the missile which fall on Poland. Understood you are trying to participate to the commission, Polish and NATO commission working in Poland to try to understand the missile. I'd like to ask you, why you think President Zelensky and your government was so secure, was so sure that they were not their own missile, they thought they were Russian. There was a kind of a little crisis with NATO allies. There were polemics in Europe and Italy in particular, accusing Ukraine of trying to fomenting a new Third World War on this question of when it the Polish and the Americans said quite quickly that it was a Ukrainian missile and S-300 missile shot by Ukraine. So can you tell us, you have any news of this inquiry and why you think there was this attitude which creates so much problems?
Я думаю, що це питання не зовсім до нашого спікера.
Так, ну зрозуміло, що ми не можемо.
Well, I cannot comment on the statements of the commander-in-chief, but we have to take into account the things that, first of all, Ukraine is objectively interested in objective investigation, to have our specialists involved in this investigation, because our experts have a very good experience in working with the debris of such missiles, or the fragments of these missiles, because we have experts who can identify those pieces and provide support to our Polish colleagues. And no one objects that what happened are the consequences of Russian aggression. Ukraine was protecting itself, everybody understands it again, and we understand that anti-missile combat that was happening in the west of Ukraine, only 10 rockets, only 10 missiles were shot down in the Lviv region. So there were 15 flying that way. Around 30 surface-to-air missiles were used against the ballistic missiles flying to Ukraine. It's very close to the borders with Polish Republic, and that's why the consequences of this fight are the consequences of Russian attack. And we all understand that what happened in Moldova, there was a similar case. I was talking about that during another briefing. A couple of weeks ago, a flight of the cruise missile over Moldova, in the sovereign airspace of Moldova. The missiles were shot down in the Vinnytsia region of Ukraine, and the fragments of the Russian missile, they fell in the territory of Moldova. And thanks God, no one died in Moldova, but people died in Poland, and condolences to them.
Sorry. This is Mark Santor from the New York Times. Just a quick follow-up on what you just said to make sure I understand. You said 15 missiles were fired on Western Ukraine and 30 air defense missiles. So is that basically generally the rule? It takes about 2 air defense missiles or so to go after and have a success rate of 75-80%. And then my main question is, you've spoken in the past about Iranian ballistic missiles and Russia's desire to acquire them. I'm just wondering if there's any update on that, if you have any more information. Is that taking place? And if it is, what can you tell us? Thanks.
Зрозуміло.
Well, conditionally, yes, I'm saying that one air target requires 2 surface-to-air missiles to increase the chance of downing it, because it's not always that the missiles shot at Ukraine, like X-101, they are the new missiles. We found the fragments. That dated like 2019, and the age of the rockets shot against them is like S-300, which dates back to 1970s. So conditionally, I can assume that against the 15 rockets flying that way, well, not to that western region, not only to Lviv region. So it was probably about 30 rocket shots launched against them. So I hope I answered your question. As to Iran, yes, we have information about the reaction of the world to this story. We already mentioned Israel, that if Ukraine really receives that support, that military help, that will help us protect ourselves against these new challenges. So we don't have information on whether Russia already wields these ballistic missiles from Iran. Maybe we will get more information from intelligence services. Mr. Yuriy Nazar Letemkov, Channel 5. I would like to join the question about the Crimean airfield. President Zelensky said recently that the Russians smoke in unequipped spaces and let them smoke even more. And can we expect for more cotton, meaning explosions in other places of Russia? So Russia is acquiring more Buk 1M and S-300 systems. Will we face any consequences in Ukraine? Thank you. Russia uses the air defense rockets, S-300. They use it as ballistic missiles, not as air defense means. Well, they launch it from the distance of 150 kilometers, and they already launched a lot of them. Maybe it's just easier to bring them from Belarus rather than from some countries of, say, Asia. And Russia is a manufacturer of these rockets, and they can afford utilizing them in this way, like disposing of them in this way, because they have a large, very wide range of air defense systems. It's Panzer S-300, S-400, then Buk 1M, Buk 2M, Buk 3M. They already located Iskanders in Belarus, S-400 air defense systems. It seems like this S-400, they protect the airspace of Belarus. So now they're moving it to the Donbas region to inflict strikes on the infrastructure of the cities, not only along the front line, but also against our troops, our military units. Our military management is aware of it, and we do all we can to protect ourselves against it. And as to the more explosions in the Crimean Peninsula, yes, we all wait for it. We expect for them to smoke in the unequipped areas. And we would want to see the long-range missiles in our ranks. We're not going to invade the territory of Russia. We just want to return our land. We want to get our people back to their homes. That's the main goal of Ukraine. And apart from that, the enemy has to pay for what they've done to our country. More questions?
Newsweek magazine, you mentioned that approximately it takes 2 air defense missiles to shoot down every incoming missile. It's great that Ukraine is receiving more and more systems of air defense, but what is Ukraine doing in order to make sure that it has sufficient ammunition for those air defense systems?
Well, the air defense systems, they come with the ammunition, and even the aircraft that we want to receive, they are supposed to come to be delivered with this wide range of ammunition. In the set, well, the aircraft is a longer perspective. We realize it absolutely. It's a long-term perspective because we have to have our pilots prepared and trained and relevant infrastructure specifically for the aircraft of the Western manufacturer, because the aircraft are also involved in air defense process, so to say. We can down the enemy cruise missiles with them. Well, we understand that today IRIS-T that is engaged in downing of air targets. And yes, we require the replenishment of the ammunition for this air defense system. And in the same way, as you mentioned, there is a wide range of air defense means of the army, of the land forces. As to the ammunition for them, we keep discussing this question with our Western partners, obviously, because now that we already received these weapons, obviously we will have the ammunition provided for them. Regarding the system which are basic for our air defense forces, I mean Buk 1M and S-300, and yes, we spent a lot to shoot down the helicopters and enemy fixed-wing aircraft, as well as cruise missiles. Obviously, yes, there are certain risks of the exhaustion of ammunition set. We know that armed forces of Ukraine already received the support from our Western partners, in particular S-300 system from Slovakia. And it's apparent that the consultations are going on with our partners who can provide us with the ammunition, or maybe already provided. I cannot disclose this information. Well, but the Western partners also help us reinforce the air defense system.
One last quick question. So we know a lot about how the attacks on the energy infrastructure are impacting civilians, and I'm just wondering if there's anything you can say about how it might be impacting Ukraine's military effort and what the military has done to protect itself or guard itself from problems with the larger grid. Thanks.
Ударів по інфраструктурі. Знаємо, що впливають дуже на мирне населення ударів.
How do the strikes on the civil energy infrastructure influence the Ukrainian military? Well, the military are the same people, just like civilians who live in the cities. They all have families, they all have children, and the military, they understand that it depends on them whether their families will have power, will have water, and whether the country will function as the whole mechanism. And they understand that they do everything they can to provide security to the Ukrainian civilians. But talking about the military in the front lines, they are equipped with the autonomous power sources. They have diesel generators, and the support keeps coming from the Western partners, specifically France, Germany, and our Western partners continue to provide this means of support because now that we see the temperatures fall below zero, these heating devices are very necessary, specifically wheel-based. We see that, for example, Russia doesn't have anything of that. They were boasting to be the second army in the world, but they don't even have the winter uniforms for their troops who are freezing in the fields. In the Ukrainian army, the situation is way better, and they are way better because the country takes care of their military, and also thanks to our allies, to our Western partners who help us with ammunition and uniforms and everything. Thank you. We had Yuriy Ihnat join us, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces on Ukraine. And dear friends, I want to wish you the soonest victory on this day of dignity and